Bam. Guess what? It went red then, but we're back on the green again. 10 days since Boris last did a briefing, and he's doing one today. So we're going to be catching up with a Boris briefing. Briefing Boris, as we like to call him. As you know, things are going a bit, well, lots gone on recently. They've told us now that a lot of people won't be getting their first vaccines in April, but they still expect to do all the adults before July or whatever. There's a new variant that's come to Britain that's been seen, but someone said that the vaccines do seem to be able to cope with that. And there's lots of other things going on as well, including the fact that that was completely not the right thing it did then. I don't know what that was about. Let's have a look. There we go. So, big question is, what's Boris going to say today? And is he going to have his injection today? Or has he already had it? Are we going to get a video of him having his injection? Because that'd be fun. There's been 25 million people been injected, and I must admit, at this moment in time, I feel like everyone has been on the news. Every single injection. I hate needles. I've had my invite now to go and get the vaccine, and I'm very undecided. I'm not an anti-vaxxer, don't get me wrong. My mother had it, and I told her that she should have it, and she was hospitalised with it. But she's 85. So, yeah, that didn't go well. But that's not the reason why I'm not keen. It's just, I don't know. I've got these nagging doubts about it. So, we'll have to wait and see. But that's not the reason why I'm just checking that camera's working. Camera and microphone's working. I don't know whether this is making a noise or not, but we'll have a look. We'll have to wait and see. But that's not the reason why I'm just checking that camera's working. Camera and microphone's working. I don't know whether this is making a noise or not, but we'll have a look. We'll have to wait and see. But that's not the reason why I'm just checking that. Right, okay. I don't know whether it's working or not. But anyway, what else has gone on? Well, Matt Hancock was on yesterday, and he was talking twaddle. I didn't watch it, I just saw the highlights on the news, which there was very few. But I'm hoping that we're going to get something good. Schools have been back now for over a week, so we won't see the after effects of that for at least another week. So we won't see COVID cases rising in a week, although I have heard from various people that even in Wigan, a few classes have been self-isolating at home because of COVID already. So we'll have to see. Good afternoon, Toff of TV. Let's try again now. So that means we've got sounds working. So yeah, there's a lot going on with this. Europe as well, with the AstraZeneca vaccine. Saying that they're not going to use it because of blood clots and all that kind of thing. That was a weird thing that come up as well. If you're waiting for Boris, by the way, and you're watching this not live, then fast forward because Boris will come on eventually, but he's always late. But they're saying that you get the blood clots in the brains and things like that. And then there was someone saying on the BBC News, I think it was, that you're less likely to get a blood clot if you have the injection than what you are if you get the injection. But then people are saying, and I'm like, what? That doesn't make sense. But out of millions of people, there's like less than 10. And let's be honest, out of millions of people, you probably expect about 10 people to have blood clots in it anyway. So, but it does add that extra layer of doubt. Mostly because, like I said, my mum was hospitalised. She was only in for a day or so, but she wasn't right for about 3 weeks, and she's still not right now. And it's over a month since she had it. But she's better than she was. Next vaccine's coming up soon. So don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and join in the chat as well. But keep it clean. And we're still waiting for Boris to come up and say what he's going to say. I'm that excited that I even went to Tesco early so I could get back in time. That's how excited I am. Not really that excited, I've just got nothing better to do. Having a break from decorating at the minute, so Right. Oh, wow. Look at that. He's actually bang on time. And he's got witty with him. He wasn't very... It's ironic.
Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. I'm very glad also to be joined by June Rain of the MHRA and Chris Whitty today, especially in the light of concerns you may have heard in some other countries about the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine.
I think it's, isn't
First, the Independent Medicines and Healthcare Products Regulatory Agency has reviewed the evidence, as it does every week. They've confirmed that the benefits of the vaccine in preventing COVID far outweigh any risks, and people should continue to get their vaccine when asked to do so. And June will say a little bit more about that.
Well,
it's also
he's
very
not having
important
a
for our
haircut,
European friends that today the European Medicines Agency has come to a clear scientific conclusion, and I quote, "This is a safe and effective vaccine." We also saw yesterday the evidence from Public Health England that a single dose of either vaccine provides 60% protection against getting COVID and reduces the chances of hospitalisation by 80% and the risk of death by 85%. So the Oxford jab is safe and the Pfizer jab is safe. The thing that isn't safe is catching COVID, which is why it's so important that we all get our jabs as soon as our turn comes. And as it happens, I'm getting mine tomorrow, and the centre where I'm getting jabbed is currently using the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine for those receiving their first dose, and that is the one I'll be having. And let me also assure you, if you come forwards after receiving your letter, we have the jabs for you. We've always said that in a vaccination programme of this pace and this scale, some interruptions in supply are inevitable.
Absolutely.
And it is true that in the short term we're receiving fewer vaccines than we had planned for.
Europe got a bit stroppy, didn't they?
That is because of a delay in a shipment from the Serum Institute, who are doing a Herculean job in producing vaccines in such large quantities. And
it's not just the vaccines that are in large quantities, you think about it.
That needs to be
It's
retested
syringes,
as part of our
it's the wipes,
safety programme. So
it's everything.
as a result, we will receive slightly
And the
fewer
bottles to put it in.
vaccines in April than in March, but that is still more than we received in February. And the
No, that's
supply
an interesting fact.
we do have will still enable us to hit the targets we have set. That means that by the 15th of April, we'll be able to offer a first dose to all of you who are over 50, as well as those under 50 who are clinically vulnerable.
I say I've got
We
my
will have the
invite,
second
but I'm
doses
still
that people
undecided
need
whether to reply
within the
to it
12-week
yet.
window, which means around 12 million people in April. And we will still offer a first dose to every adult by the end of July. So there is no change to the next steps of the roadmap. We've now vaccinated over 25 million people across our entire United Kingdom, more than the entire population of many countries, and our progress along
Many
the road
countries,
to
the Isle
freedom
of Man.
continues unchecked. We remain on track to reclaim the
You're
things we
honest.
love, to see our families and
LOI.
friends again, to return to our local pubs, our gyms and sports facilities, and of course our shops. All, of course, as long as the data continue
Don't
to
forget
go
to like,
in
share,
the right
subscribe.
direction, and we meet our 4 tests.
4 tests.
And the way to ensure that this happens
Rumours it's
is
gonna
to
go longer,
get that
didn't it?
jab when your turn comes. So let's get the jab done. Thank you very much. I'm now going to hand to June Rain.
Thank you, Prime Minister, and good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
The MHRA has been carrying out robust safety vigilance in tandem with the COVID-19 vaccination programme. Our role is to continually monitor safety during widespread use of a vaccine, to confirm that they're performing as expected, to identify any new side effects that arise, and to ensure that the benefits continue to outweigh
I must
the
admit, I
risks.
was heavily criticised.
We've been able to gather a large amount of data on the
for over a
safety
year now,
profile of the available vaccines
about
and have done a rigorous
the reactions
scientific
to this.
review of all the available data with
done well
regards
with the
to
vaccinations,
suspected
even though
blood
I'm not
clots.
100% convinced I want it myself.
Our review, alongside
So-
the critical assessment of leading independent scientists in the Commission on Human Medicines, shows that there is no difference, that blood clots in veins are occurring more than would be expected in the absence of vaccination for either vaccine. The public can have every confidence in the thoroughness of our review. We have also received 5 reports of a rare form of blood clot in the cerebral sinuses, cerebral sinus vein thrombosis, or CSVT, occurring together with lowered blood platelets shortly after vaccination with the COVID-19 vaccine AstraZeneca. This type of blood clot can rarely occur naturally in unvaccinated people, as well as in people with COVID-19 disease. A further review of these events is ongoing, but a causal relationship with the vaccine has not yet been established. And the rate of occurrence of these CSVT events among the 11 million people vaccinated is extremely rare. While we continue to investigate these cases as a precautionary measure, we would advise anyone with a headache that lasts more than 4 days after vaccination or bruising beyond the site of vaccination after a few days to seek medical attention. And we will communicate further on the outcome of this further review when it's complete. The MHRA assessed this data alongside the benefits of the vaccine in preventing COVID-19,
Well, that's
with
put me
its
off even more.
associated risk of hospitalisation
I don't want a
and deaths,
CIVST
and determined that the
thing in the
benefits
head.
firmly remain to outweigh the risks. So you should continue to receive your vaccine when you get the call or the second dose as soon as you're contacted. And I want to end by expressing our sincere gratitude to those who have sent reports to the MHRA, and remind everyone that you can report and you should report all suspected side effects to COVID-19 vaccines through the Coronovirus Yellow Card Scheme.
Oh, she's happy
Thank
with that,
you,
isn't
Prime
she?
Minister.
Thank you very much.
Coronavirus yellow
Jane.
card
Let's go.
scheme. I bet she thought of that one.
To add to that. Thank you very much. Let's go to Jane from Buckinghamshire.
Oh,
Good afternoon. Are the UK able to provide stats to prove that the AstraZeneca vaccine is safe and therefore alleviate the current fears of blood clots in the EU? Thank you.
Thanks, Jane. I'm going to pass that straight back to June and then to Chris.
Yes, we can. We're committed to transparency. We publish every week all the suspected adverse drug reaction reports that we receive.
She's not committed
and our
to
report
transparency.
includes
She's got a black
further
jacket on.
information
That's not
on any
transparent.
trends, and it will certainly
Mind
communicate
you, I
all the
not
data
necessarily
and the
want it to
stats
wear
around
transparent
the particular issue of
No
blood
offence.
clots. Thank you.
Thank you.
The thing I'd add to what Dr.
There he
Ramos
is,
has said,
the comedian, Mr.
is
Whitty.
firstly that all of medicine is about saying, look, what are the potential risks of the treatment?
Irony can be ironic.
Everything that you take, every drug, every vaccine, every operation is going to have some risks, often very small, including drugs that people are very used to, like aspirin. So, for example, that can cause bleeding, that can cause a whole variety of problems. And yet we all would see that as a normal drug that people would just have
She has
in
got a very
their bathroom cabinet.
pre-recorded voice,
All
I'll
drugs
give you
have
that,
some
Toff.
side effects that are rare. The question is, are the benefits big enough to justify that? And what we have here, what Dr. Rain has laid out, is an incredibly small potential risk, and even this is a potential risk, not one that is certain. So 5 people out of the 11 million that have been given the vaccine in the UK so far, against the really very substantial protection that these vaccines give, and that the AZ vaccine as well as the Pfizer vaccine give to people against this really common disease. And I think it's important to remind people that at this point in time, we're still in a situation where the Office for National Statistics think that 1 in 270 people have got COVID. This is still a common disease, and it is a very dangerous disease for many people. People dying, people getting significant blood clotting problems. That's one of the risks of COVID.
There is a
people
lot
having
of
long-term,
what
physical and
feels
mental effects
scripted,
from COVID.
particularly with
So
the
this is a very
questions
significant
by the
disease
public.
that is very common, with a very
I think
effective
the questions by the
vaccine,
journalists.
2 vaccines in the case
I mean, the
of
first
AZ
3 or
and
4 are
Pfizer.
really good.
And
but
real,
then you get the
issues that we
you know,
always have to think about with all
journals that
drugs,
you've never heard
but
of.
they are so much
You know,
smaller
like Fishing
than the benefits
Weekly.
of getting the vaccine. So it's, the
And
risk
asking the
benefit is
questions,
really strongly
when can we go
in
fishing
favour
again
of
with a
getting
friend,
vaccinated,
or something like that, and you're like, what?
As the MHRA have said
You know,
today,
the BBC,
and as the
Sky,
EMA, the excellent,
ITV,
European
the
Medicines
Times
Safety Agency
newspaper,
has
that
also
kind of
said
thing.
today.
Their
So this
questions
is a universal
generally
view.
are okay.
It's also the view of the World Health Organization, WHO.
Thanks, Chris. Barry from Burton-on-Trent.
That's a good point. No slides.
Barry asks, in the light of the European President, the European Commission President, threatening to block the export of vaccines, how will this affect the general public who are waiting for the second dose of the Pfizer vaccine, which is produced in Belgium? Barry, thank you very much. I think that people should be under no anxiety or no misapprehensions about that. We will get on and deliver all the second doses
Europe's
of
turned
the,
nasty, hasn't
of
it?
the Pfizer. And
Fourth Reich.
It's very important to stress, whatever you may hear about the pressures that different countries are under to deliver vaccines
about
for
something
their,
and then not
for their
use it.
public.
Like a spoilt brat.
These
like
vaccines
spoilt
are
child.
a multinational effort. They're produced as the result of
No, you can't play with my
international
football in the park,
cooperation.
kids.
And I want to stress
but I'm not
that
going
we
to play
in
with
the
it either. I'm
UK
just going to sit on the
will continue
ground, eating an ice cream with it next to me.
view
But
it
you're
in
not
that
playing with
spirit,
it.
and we
grow
don't have
up.
any bans on exporting stuff, and we'll continue to cooperate with our European friends.
I've just got your
let's go to
tag as well.
Fergus Walsh
Extinct
of the BBC.
or extinct.
Thank you, Prime
Very
Minister.
good, very clever.
Is there a danger that the unfounded concerns about
Like an
the
80s
safety
video, isn't
of
it?
the AstraZeneca vaccine might put
Red
some
light,
people off
shadow,
from
blue
having their jab?
jacket.
What would you say to them? And for Professor Whitty, how important is it that the under 50s get immunised as soon as possible?
Thanks. Well, Fergus, I think the best testimony that I can offer about the safety of the Pfizer and the Oxford AstraZeneca, which seem to be pretty much identical in safety terms, is really what you've heard just now from Dr. Rain and Professor Whitty. I think that they are, medical professionals whose view it is that these are safe and effective vaccines, and that's been confirmed today by the European Medicines Agency. And I think that's a voice that will be heard around the whole of the European Union, and that's all to the good.
Just to add to that, the overwhelming professional view of doctors around the world and other health professionals is these vaccines are highly effective against a dangerous infection that is common, and they are safe, very safe relative to the risk of the infection. So the first thing is to say there's a very strong professional consensus on that, and it is clear that the British public also have taken that message. And if you look at the numbers that people have coming forward for vaccination, well over 90% in the age groups that have gone through their vaccination have chosen to take this up. So there is the general public is, as always, sensible and steady on this. They understand this is a dangerous disease, an effective vaccine.
But you've not convinced me yet, and I follow this more than most
compared to the
people.
risk of catching the disease. In terms of the under 50s, the biggest risk, as everyone will by now know, is in those who are older or have health conditions. So it's quite right that those were prioritised, and the JCVI prioritisation made that clear.
Yep.
And in terms of people who have
argue
sadly
with
died from COVID, 99% of people who died would have come from either people over 50 or with pre-existing health conditions who are in the groups that are currently vaccinated. So that was the absolute priority.
Yeah.
And we know that a second
What's the
vaccine
point of
on top of the first
vaccinating
adds
healthy
to the
20-year-olds?
protection. So it
and
is
not
really important
80-year-olds and
that people who are
70-year-olds
invited for a second
who are more likely to
vaccination
end up in hospital and die.
can't
You
get
need to take
it.
the pressure off
And
the
then in
hospitals.
particular, these people in the first, the JCVI groups 1 to 9, the people over 50 and with health conditions. So really important they do that. Once those are vaccinated, it is also very important we start going down the ages, because people can continue to have significant health problems in their 40s, 30s, 20s, and occasionally even younger than that. But it decreases over age, but there's still significant health problems
This
all
is
the
long
way
COVID,
through.
isn't it?
So it will be critical that once we got through the first group, who are the ones who are most at risk, we go on to do this protection. And it does one additional thing, which is the higher the proportion of the population are vaccinated, the smaller the risk to everybody. So by being vaccinated, someone protects themselves, and if they take the second vaccine, they protect themselves even more. But if they also have the vaccination, they reduce the risk of passing on COVID to people around them. So that's what we really want, is everyone to be vaccinated for their own protection, and if everybody is protected, that also protects everyone else in society.
Thanks, Fergus. Emily Morgan, ITV.
Thank you, Prime Minister. You said that there's no change to the roadmap, but you have also said in the past that we will only move to the next phase of easing of lockdown if we pass 4 tests. Doesn't this vaccine supply issue mean that we are actually going to fail the first test, which is the continued successful deployment of the vaccine?
We've already said we're getting more than we got in February, even in April.
We'll be able to meet our targets in exactly the way that I described by April the 12th and by July. And that's the crucial thing, and that will enable us to get on with the steps on the timetable that we've set out. So April the 12th, May the 17th, June the 21st, we will continue all the unlockings that I've set out. If the 4 tests, as I've said, continue to be met. Thank you very much, Tom Newton-Dunn, Times Radio.
Thank you,
These
Prime
are very
Minister.
subtle.
Question for
There you go. How subtle is that? That's subtle, more subtle than normal.
vaccine centres, GPs, whoever, banned from administering vaccines to under 50s.
It's my thing as well. We've got all these Nightingale hospitals.
If they've done all their Group 6s, if they've done all their over 50s.
Summertime is pretty good.
Question to you, Prime Minister, on India's role in
so why not use those hospitals for the backlog of people who need operations like knee replacements or whatever? Do them in hospital. Once they're out of danger, put them in the Nightingales and have the Nightingales
if they have indeed
run by volunteer, recently retired nurses and doctors, just to help the NHS recover from this.
Chris.
I mean, the NHS has been really clear that what they want to do is to prioritise the people in the over 50s and those in the high-risk groups, plus health and social care workers and carers of vulnerable people. And they've done that for a really obvious reason that I think everybody accepts. And what those leading this have said, and I completely agree with this, is we must, at this point, really prioritise the possibility that we don't miss anybody, leave anyone behind, because we're racing down the ages. And just to give something, you know, the Society of Actuaries gave some numbers on this to explain why this is so important. And what they said was that if you assume the vaccine was completely effective, which isn't completely effective, but very close to, very, very close to that for practical purposes, you would need to vaccinate 20 people in the highest risk group to actually prevent 1 death. By the time we get down to the people in their 50s who are otherwise well, don't have other problems, you need to vaccinate 8,000 people to actually prevent 1 death. The point I'm making is the key priority at the moment is to find all the people who've not yet had the opportunity to be offered a vaccine in the highest risk groups, complete on that, and then we absolutely then want to go down further down the ages. But that's the reason for the decisions.
Yeah, and Tom, on your question about the Serum Institute of India, I want to thank the Serum Institute of India for their heroic role in producing huge quantities
I don't have a problem with the way they've done it.
And the Indian government hasn't stopped any export. There is a delay, as I've described, as there is very frequently in vaccine rollout programs. But this is, believe me, by no means the end of the story of the UK's relationship with the Serum Institute of India, and you know, we hope to make further progress over the weeks and months ahead. There is a huge amount of work that we want to do together, and this is just the beginning. Thanks very much, Tom. I think you wanted to come back on something. I think do you want to come back there, Tom?
Very quickly, yeah.
Yes.
Is the Indian responsible for that delay, if not a ban? Have the Indian government delayed that export?
No. There is a delay, as there often is, caused for various technical reasons, but we hope, as I've said, to continue to work very closely with the Serum Institute of India, and indeed with partners around the world, including on the European continent. So this is a big international effort.
Yeah, I mean,
we're going to continue
pointless
as
doing just
the UK
to be getting vaccinated
to be global
and then
in
not
our
doing
outlook, as you would
you know,
expect us,
all the other countries
to be.
including Iran, Iraq, and all that.
Steve
Never
Swinford,
mind
The Times.
Europe and Spain and all that.
Prime
That's
Minister,
for this
you
passport
previously called
nonsense.
for an amnesty for migrants who are in the UK illegally. How comfortable are you with the idea of sending asylum seekers overseas for processing? And Professor Whitty, the latest figures suggest that just 1 in 16,000 tests
that got to do with
on
vaccinations?
school children have come back positive. How confident are you that we'll be able to proceed with the easing of the lockdown on April the 12th?
Steve, the first point about the illegal immigration into the UK is that, and you're perfectly right. I think when people have been here for a very long time and haven't fallen foul of the law, then it makes sense to try to regularise their status. But that actually is pretty much what already happens under the existing rules. But when it comes to what the Home Secretary was setting out, I want to be clear. The objective here is to save life and avert human misery, because people are crossing the channel who are being fooled, who are being conned by gangsters into paying huge sums of money, risking their lives. People have died making this, trying to make this crossing, and it is a deeply repugnant traffic that we need to stop, and that's why the Home Secretary has set out the tough series of proposals that you've seen. But the objective is a humanitarian one and a humane one, which is to stop the
also
the
not
abuse
relevant
of
to what
these
we're
people
talking about.
by a bunch of traffickers and gangsters. That's what we're trying to do. Thanks very much.
I was asked on schools, PM.
Sorry, Chris. Schools.
On schools, just 3 points to make. I mean, the first of which is a huge thank you to teachers and other school staff who have done a really terrific job in making it as safe as possible for all children to come back. And remembering, of course, that children are not the group who are heavily affected by this infection, but they are important potentially in the transmission. And what they're doing in the schools is really going to benefit the students, the staff, and wider society.
It's neither bin
in
nor
terms
bin.
of, we are expecting that schools going back will put some upward pressure on R. We've said that right from the beginning. That was an accepted thing that is likely to happen. But the roadmap was planned with that possibility absolutely in mind
see anything from
when the Prime Minister announced it. And what he
week
also said,
we'll
and this
see
is
the
just
R rate
reiterating
going up.
what he said, was he wants, and ministers want, to be based on data, not dates. And we have not yet got to the point we can see the full impact of the schools being open again. And therefore, what we will need to do is to re-look at the data once it comes in. But it takes a while for the data fully to reveal itself and to be properly analysed in a way that the Prime Minister and other ministers can make a decision. So it is important that we stick to this data, not dates approach. But there's nothing at the moment that is flashing red lights beyond what you'd expect, which is, of course, when there are schools open, there is slightly greater possibility of transmission. We'll just have to see what the data show.
Thanks. I just say, Steve, on schools, I was actually at a school a primary school in my constituency today, and the feeling there was they were so glad to be back. It was obvious from what all the pupils said, and I want to echo what Chris said. I want to thank all the teachers who've done an amazing amount of work getting their schools ready. All the parents who put up with
it's going to
lockdown
affect
for so long
and delay
worked so hard.
stuff, because if you look at it in September,
I think I'm right in saying
when the kids
that
went back to school, it just went like that.
Today is actually higher than we would normally expect it to be at this time of year, and it was very, very good to see the enthusiasm for being back at school and the steps that schools are still taking and rightly taking to ensure that it's COVID secure. Mesa Hall of the Express.
Thank you, Prime Minister. If I can ask Professor Whitty, have you seen any evidence that the suspension of the Oxford vaccine in some European countries has had any impact here in terms of people not turning up for appointments or perhaps asking for an alternative?
I think bookshelves would have been a better option than his
Prime Minister,
5-year-old's
next week is
paintings
the
in the back
anniversary
wall.
of the start of the first lockdown. I think you've said that you'll privately observe a minute's silence, as the Marie Curie charity has asked people to do. Should we see it as a national day of commemoration for those lost in this pandemic? And have you given any more thought to a permanent memorial to them?
On the question you asked me, I mean, there are anecdotal reports which I'm sure will be accurate that in some places a few people have not turned up immediately after they heard the news. I suspect a lot of them will think about it, see the very reassuring data that the MHRA has given, that Dr. Rain laid out earlier, the very reassuring points that the World Health Organization made, the very reassuring things that the European Medicines Agency made, and the overwhelming view of the medical and nursing and other health professions. And they will realize that this is something that, having had a pause for thought, they want to do. But the numbers were very small who did that. Actually, almost record numbers have been going through in terms of numbers of people taking up the vaccine. Overall, there is no evidence of a significant problem that people do not want vaccination. And anybody who is doubtful about this, I would encourage them just to think through the dangers of COVID, how common it is, and the safety of the vaccines. This is something that absolutely is in their interest, as well as everyone around them's interests, for them to take.
Yeah, and Mace, on the anniversary, of course, marking it, as I'm sure millions of others will around the country. And on the idea for a national memorial, yes, we will certainly be pursuing that, and a lot of good suggestions have already come in. And you'll be hearing more about that in due course. Let's go to Alex Brown of the Scotsman.
Good evening. For you, Prime Minister, when will cross-border travel be relaxed enough for the 800,000 Scots in England to go home and see their families again? And secondly, do you think Nicola Sturgeon should resign if she broke the ministerial code? And would you expect the same of your own ministers?
Well, Alex, I hope very much that we'll be able to.
I've got to say, that's Scotland's government who decides who goes in and out of their
Kingdom
country,
according to the timetable set out on the roadmap, and I hope that
and you won't comment
everybody
on
will show
resigning.
common sense in application of the rules around the country. And as I've said earlier on, there's no change to the roadmap as a result of anything to do with the vaccine rollout, which continues well. And I think your second question was an attempt to get me quite properly to get me to comment on something which I think is properly and rightly left to the Parliament in Scotland to address, and to the Scottish electorate. Okay, everybody, thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we didn't really learn anything. Not that I was expecting to learn anything, I'll be honest. And it was quite a brief one as well. 27 minutes. So, yeah, we'll leave it there then. Until Boris is on next time. Yeah. A huge shout out to Toffs TV, Extinct, DC number 9, and everyone who's watched. And don't forget, if you like these things, like, share, subscribe. And we will see you all in the future, all being well. And I'll decide whether I'm having the vaccine. Anyway, until then, I'll be seeing you. Bye!